Alright, now we move on to our next topic, audit of payroll and personnel cycle. Alright, so under this topic, so our outline or our overview. Alright, next will be activities and payroll and personnel cycle, functions or process and documents related, internal control objective and control procedures, just like normal, and then transactions related audit objective, key controls, test of controls, substantive test of transaction for payroll. So these are the things that we are going to discuss in this topic. All right, so this one is related to the account, which is some sort like this is related with bank account, and then with the payroll payable and the wages control, and so this is for the deductions, right? And then if we move on, so we can see that this is the overview for the whole thing. All right, number one is the payroll and personnel cycle involve the employment. It means that start from how the employee is being appointed, and then how the payment to the employees. And then audit of the payroll and personnel cycle includes, number one, we should understand as the auditor, understand the internal control. And then if we already understand, we have to assess the control risk. The third one, we have to do our test, which is test of control and substantive test of transaction. Next one will be analytical procedures, and the last one will be test of detail balances. Test of detail balances, it means that the figure that we would like to transfer to our P&L. So these are the activities in payroll and personnel cycle. Number one, we have to see the authorizing employment. So if the person being employed in the company, how is actually the process of employment, okay? All right, and then the timekeeping, how the company is actually recorded the time and also the hours worked for the employees, and then they prepare the payroll. And then lastly, after they prepare for the payroll or the documentation, and then how they make payment to the employees. So this one, you have to refer to our textbook, page 494 to page 495 for the flowchart. Alright, so for this one, functions or process and documents related. So basically, we can be divided into 4 subsections. Okay, so number one is personnel and employment. Number two is how they record the time and prepare for the payroll, and this is related for the payment, and this is preparation for the payroll tax and return. All right, so this one will refers to the personnel record, means that the file of the individual, and then they are going to see the deduction. So it means that some sort like the EPF and other deductions, and then the rate of the authorization. Okay, so they have to look this one. In terms of record keeping, so they have to see the time card or the punch card. So it depends on the company. Maybe they are using the fingerprint and so on. So this one is some of the company is a job time ticket. So it depends also. And then we're going to refer the payroll transaction file, and then payroll journal and listing, and the payroll master file. How all those being recorded. And then for the payment, we're going to refer to the payroll check and then payroll bank account reconciliation. Normally for big companies, normally they will have a separate account for the payroll. And then we are going to see the EA form and the payroll tax return. All right, now we move on to the next one, which is the personnel and employment. So personnel is actually refers to the personnel records, such as refers to the date of employment, the personnel investigation, rate of pay, some sort like maybe they are being appointed as that position, and sometimes they don't have the right qualification. Maybe they have a relative or what, so we have to look on this kind of transaction. So make sure that everything is according to the rules and procedures set by the company. And also for the authorized deduction, is that rate being deducted is follow the rules. And then performance and evaluation and personnel records. Number 2 is deduction and contribution authorization form. So this one include payment for the income tax, all right, schedule double deduction, and then contribution to the EPF and so. Right, some of the company, they do not contribute to the EPF, so we have to see this one. All right, deduction includes payment for various loans such as car loan and housing loan. Right, some of the company, they are providing this one also, so we have to look this one also. All right, rate authorization form, so the form that authorize the rate of pay. So this one also we have to look in detail. All right, so the timekeeping, so start from how they record the working hours and so on. So maybe you have to refer to the time card. So what is a time card? Is actually indicating the time of the employees started and then stop work each day and the number of hours the employee worked. So this one we have to see whether if the company is stated that they have to work 8 hours a day, so whether it's actually record as a 8 hours. Alright, so job time ticket, so it means that a document indicating job on which employee worked during a given time period. So hopefully they are not work more than the given time period. And then the payroll transaction file, so this is the computer generated file that include all payroll transaction. So it means that here everything should be, normally they are using the computer. It's a file that all the payroll transaction should be there. Alright, so what is the payroll journal or payroll listing? Is a payroll is a report generated from the payroll transaction file. So this is refers to the on the top. Alright. And then payroll master file used for recording each payroll transaction for each employee. Alright, this is for a single item, but this one for the payroll master file is inclusive all of the employee, so they combine together, and maintaining the total employees' wages for the year to date. So all of the employees' deduction, gross pay, everything will be in the master file. Right, now we move on to the next one. Is a payroll check. It's a check to pay for the salary or wages. So a check returned to the employee for the service performed. So it depends on the company. Sometimes they are being given a check. Sometimes they are going to see the bank transfer from the account. So it depends on the situation. And then the payroll bank account reconciliation. So it means that is there any bank reconciliation with the payroll department? So this is the important control, independent reconciliation. All right. Impress payroll account. So Impress payroll account is a separate payroll account which is a small balance is maintained. So normally they are going to have a proper account for the payroll. Alright, so EA form is actually issued for each employee summarizing the earnings record for the calendar year. So this one they have to prepare also. And then the payroll of tax return, tax from submitted to the RIB, Inland Revenue Board, for payment of the employees' monthly tax. Because normally at a certain salary, so the company what should do is they have to deduct the salary for the employees to pay to the IRB. Alright, so this one they have to see the transaction. Alright, so next one will be internal control objective. Alright, and then what are the control procedures that they should have. Alright, here, so we can see here the internal control objective. Okay. Alright, number 1 is occurrence or some sort like the existence. How to see the transactions are services actually performed by the non-fictitious employee, because sometimes you can see that they are make a payment to an employee, but that the employee is actually not exist in the firm. So what are the specific control? So to make sure that this thing is not happen, they should have a segregation of duties of personnel, and then the timekeeping and the payroll. So it means that here the person who prepare for the documentation is not the person who make for the payment. All right, they also should have a proper authorization and approval for the personnel department to see whether there is any changes in employee status and so on. All right, the rest I think you read by your own. All right, completeness, it shows that all payroll transactions are properly recorded. There is no omission and so on. So payroll check should be pre-numbered, all right? So they should have the numbering system. And then independent employees should reconcile the payroll bank account. So it means that here they are going to check for the individual transaction, the amount that's supposed to be for the customer is, for the employee is actually the amount credited from the bank. All right, what about the accuracy? So accuracy means that the transaction recorded is at a proper amount. So it means that all the amount is accurate. So there should be internal verification, all right, including review of the approved rates and time card. So we have to see the approval, whether what they did on the calculation is correct. Gross and net payroll amount and payroll total should be independently recalculated. So it means that you have to recalculate manually to see whether this one is good or not. Maybe you can do a sample and so on. All right, payroll transactions are recorded a correct accounting period. So the cut off, especially at the end of the year, at the end of the month and so on. There should be proper procedures to compare dates on payroll check and entry dates in the payroll register. So amount that day from the dates on the payroll check, on the check itself, and then the payroll register. All right, so we have to compare the date. And then the classification, so payroll transactions are properly recorded in the account. So procedures for classifying payroll costs should be reviewed. Right now we move on to the next one, transaction related audit objective. So this is the transaction related, and then the key control. Then we have to do test of control, and then start tests of transaction. All right, so we have to test on the control and then test on the account. All right, so this is the transaction audit objective. All right, this is the key internal control, and then this is the common test of control, and this is the common substantive test of control. So this is a test of control, this is substantive test of transaction. So the existence, to make sure that everything existent or occurrence, to make sure that recorded payroll payment work actually performed by the existing employees. We see that all the payment is actually paid to the employees that actually exist. It means that there is no fictitious payment to the fictitious employee. So what we have to do is we see the time card approved by the supervisor, and then we see whether there is a time card, punch card, clock in and so on. And then they should have the adequate personnel files are maintained, and then employment is authorized. All right, so there is no related or family members being entered without authorization. All right, and then check is authorized before issuance. So it means that there must be proper authorization. So in order to test of control, what you should do is examine the card for the approval, and then check for the time card, review for the personnel policies, and then examine the personnel file. All right, you just take one of the, you just pick one of the file of the employees, this is personnel file, and then you have to check into detail, and then you examine payroll records and indication for the approval. So for the transaction, so you have to review the payroll journal, GL, and payroll earnings record, and then you have to compare, is there any cancel, check with payroll journal for name, amount, and rate. So it means that is there, for example, if there is a check, so you have to see is there any cancel check. Okay. Alright, and then for the completeness, so we can see that payrolls are pre-numbered and account for. Alright, bank accounts are independently reconciled. So this one I think that you can read by your own. So how to test on the control and how to test for the substantive testing. Alright, so here is the accuracy to make sure that all the payroll transaction for the amount of time actually work at a proper rate. So this one is for the classification. So the key controls here, calculation the amount internally verified. So this is the key control, and then batch total compared with the computer summary report. Wage rate, salary, and commission is properly authorized, and then withholding include amount for insurance, payroll, property authorized. So it means that if the salary also, the starting salary, everything should be authorized. So this is for the internal control. Alright, so what you are doing to check the internal verification, and then we see the batch total compared with the initial data control clerk, and then we can see here you're supposed to do the examine payroll records for the indication of the internal verification. So the first thing is we have to see the authorization, all those things. Yeah? Alright, and then recomputed, this is for the transaction. So what suppose you do, recomputed hours work from the time card. So it means that you have to check, do your arithmetical accuracy to check whether the time card is correct, calculate, and so on. Alright, now this one you read by your own. Okay, this one we more on timing. Alright, I think that you can read. By now you should know. Alright, so the control procedures that you should have, this one. And then the internal control, and this is the test of transaction. Alright, next one, what are the analytical review procedures for the payroll? Number one, for the analysis, what you can do is compare payroll expense account, so our expenses that you pay, with the previous year. Okay, we can see is that the same or it's not the same. If there is not the same, because of what reason, and so on. So what is the possible misstatement? Misstatement of payroll expense account. So you can see that is there any changes from previous year to the current year. So if there is a changes, so we have to see. Alright, the changes because of what reason. So compare direct labor as percentage of sale with the previous year. And then misstatement of direct labor and inventory. Alright, this one we compare commission expense as a percentage of sales with the previous year. So this one also we can find for the misstatement. So this one we compare the payroll tax expenses as a percentage of the salaries and wages with the previous year. This one also will show the misstatement. So what else that we can compare? Compare accrued payroll tax account with the previous year. This one also can show you for the any misstatement. Alright, so this one question 4, I hope that you can read by your own, okay, and then try to do here, but here they'll give you the, normally the question will ask you the weaknesses, and then the possible effect, and also for the recommendation. So you can see here, read the question, and then you can see for the solution that given here. Thank you.